The tea was still warm on the mahogany side table. In the small, quiet town of Hyde, Greater Manchester, the afternoon sun peeked through the lace curtains of 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy's home. She was a woman loved by everyone, active, vibrant, and a former mayoress. On this particular morning, she had a visitor. Not a stranger, not a prowler in the night, but the most respected man in the community, her doctor. A man who had dedicated his life to healing. He sat across from her, offering a gentle smile and a reassuring word. He reached into his black medical bag, not for a stethoscope, but for a needle. Within minutes, the room fell silent. Kathleen wasn't sleeping. She was drifting into a void from which there is no return. As her heart slowed to a final rhythmic thud, the doctor didn't call for an ambulance. He didn't perform CPR. Instead, he calmly took a pen, pulled out a medical certificate and wrote, "Cause of death, old age." Welcome to Dark Case Files. We're taught from childhood to trust those in white coats. We hand them our lives when we are at our most vulnerable. But what happens when the hand that heals is the same hand that kills? Today, we peel back the layers of a facade so perfect, it hid the most prolific serial killer in modern history. A man who used the ultimate weapon: trust. To understand the horror, we have to understand the man. Harold Frederick Shipman was born in 1946 in a working-class area of Nottingham. He wasn't a social outcast. He was bright, albeit a bit arrogant. But his childhood was shadowed by a singular, haunting event. When Harold was just 17, he watched his mother, Vera, die a slow, agonizing death from lung cancer. Every day, he watched the family doctor arrive at their bedside. He watched as the doctor administered morphine to ease her pain. He saw the power that a single needle held, the power to grant peace, the power over life and death. Many believe this was the moment a circuit flipped in Shipman's brain. After her death, he didn't just want to be a doctor. He wanted to be the master of the transition between worlds. He excelled in his studies, married his wife Primrose, and eventually settled into a general practice in Hyde. To the townspeople, Fred Shipman was a godsend. He was old school. He did home visits. He stayed late to talk to his elderly patients. He was the kind of doctor who remembered your name, your children's names, and your favorite tea. He was the anchor of the community. But behind that beard and those spectacles, a predatory instinct was sharpening. The killings didn't start with a bang. They started with a whisper. Shipman didn't target the young or the strong. He targeted those whose deaths wouldn't raise an eyebrow: the elderly, the widowed, the lonely. His method was chillingly consistent. He would visit a patient at home, often unannounced. He would claim he was there for a routine checkup or a blood test. While the patient sat in their favorite armchair, he would inject them with a lethal dose of diamorphine medical-grade heroin. Imagine the scene. A sunny afternoon. Mrs. Adams is talking about her garden. Shipman listens intently, nodding. He tells her she needs a vitamin boost. She trusts him. She feels a small prick in her arm. Within seconds, her head lolls back. Shipman doesn't panic. He waits. He watches the life leave her eyes with a clinical, detached curiosity. Sometimes, he would even stay in the house, perhaps even making himself a cup of tea while the body grew cold. Then, the paperwork. This was his greatest shield. As a doctor, he had the legal authority to sign death certificates. He would list the cause as stroke, heart failure, or natural causes. Because the victims were old, no one questioned it. No autopsies were performed. The bodies were often sent for cremation, effectively burning the evidence of his crimes before anyone even knew a crime had been committed. For over 20 years, the red dots on the map grew. One every few months, then one every few weeks. He was playing God in a small English town, and he was winning. But even the most meticulous predator leaves a trail. The town's local undertaker, Deborah Massey, was the first to notice something wrong. She realized she was seeing an unusual number of deaths among Shipman's patients. They weren't just dying. They were dying in the same way, sitting up in their chairs, fully clothed during the daytime. When she raised her concerns with another doctor, the investigation was superficial. Shipman's records were impeccable. He was a pillar of the community. Who would believe a funeral director over a celebrated physician? So the killings continued. Every serial killer eventually makes a mistake. For Shipman, it was his own arrogance. He began to believe he was truly untouchable. In 1998, he murdered Kathleen Grundy. But Kathleen was different. She was a woman of means and meticulous organization. After her sudden death, her daughter Angela Woodruff, who happened to be a lawyer, was shocked to find a new will. The will was a disaster. It was typed on an old typewriter, filled with spelling errors, and it left Kathleen's entire £386,000 estate not to her family, but to Dr. Harold Shipman. Angela knew her mother. Her mother was precise. Her mother would never leave her money to a doctor she barely knew outside of his professional capacity. Angela went to the police. Initially, the police were hesitant. They couldn't believe the town's most beloved doctor was a forger. But Angela persisted. They exhumed Kathleen Grundy's body. The toxicology report came back like a thunderclap: lethal levels of diamorphine. Suddenly, the good doctor looked very different. Detectives began a digital forensic deep dive. They looked at Shipman's computer records. They found that he had been retroactively altering his patients' medical histories. He would kill someone at 3 p.m., then go back to his office and change their records from 2 months ago to show they had a weak heart. But he forgot one thing. The computer's internal timestamp recorded exactly when those changes were made. The evidence was undeniable. He wasn't just a doctor. He was a forger, a liar, and a monster. As the investigation widened, the police realized the Grundy case was just the tip of a massive dark iceberg. They began exhuming more bodies. Each one told the same story: diamorphine. The final inquiry, led by Dame Janet Smith, concluded that Shipman was responsible for at least 215 murders, though the real number is likely closer to 250 or even 450. He had killed more people than Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and John Wayne Gacy combined. And he did it all while being paid by the state, while receiving Christmas cards from the families of his victims, and while being praised as a pillar of the community. The motive? It wasn't money. The Grundy will was a rare exception. It wasn't sexual. Experts believe it was pure, unadulterated power. The power to decide who lives and who dies. The ultimate God complex. In January 2000, Harold Shipman was sentenced to life imprisonment with the recommendation that he never be released. But the families never got their why. Shipman remained defiant, arrogant, and silent. He never confessed. He never showed a shred of remorse. In 2004, on the eve of his 58th birthday, he took the coward's way out and hanged himself in his prison cell. He took his secrets to the grave, leaving hundreds of families haunted by the same thought. I thanked him for being so kind to my mother after she died. I shook the hand of the man who killed her. The town of Hyde was left shattered. The medical profession was forced to change its laws on death certificates and controlled drugs. But the psychological scar remains. Harold Shipman didn't look like a monster. He looked like your grandfather. He looked like the man you'd trust with your deepest secrets. And that is the most terrifying truth of all. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a stethoscope. As you look at the people you trust most in your life, your neighbors, your colleagues, your caregivers, ask yourself, do we ever truly know what lies behind the smile? Or is trust simply the most dangerous weapon we can give to someone else? What do you think was Shipman's true motive? Was it the trauma of losing his mother, or was he simply born without a soul? Let us know your theories in the comments below. This is a dark world, and we are just here to document the shadows. If you found this case as chilling as we did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell for dark case files. We dive deep into the mysteries that the world tries to forget. Don't miss our next investigation. Stay vigilant. Would you like me to start the next script for you?